Okay, hi everybody. I thought I'd do a small video on creating a normal map for a car tyre, which came about because I was modelling this and wanted the car tyre, but basically didn't want to go through the hassle of modelling the tread. So what I ended up doing was taking a leaf from Ryu's video here, where he talks about doing a normal map without baking, and he's doing it for a decal trim sheet. But the concept is the same for basically doing any normal map. This is going to be a seamless one. And so we just start with a plane. And this effectively represents your area you're going to be working your pattern into. So the first thing is to have a middle section, and this is just did a loop cut there with Control R, and then I'm doing Control B for a bevel, and this just represents the area where the actual tyre tread is, so like the top part of the tyre. And you don't want it to take over all of the area, for the simple reason that you've got to allow space either side for a normal map, sort of blank colour, if you like, the standard blank colour for normal map. Otherwise you're going to get your tread repeating down the actual tyre wall, which of course you do not want. And we'll start with a simple one to begin with. What we'll do is we'll just have a ridge thing here, so I'm just sort of looking. See one on. We'll do that, I think. Right now, what we're going to do, we're going to just select alternate ones like that. Just extrude them down. Then we're going to switch to individual origins and scale on the, in my case, on the y-axis. If you've done your cuts the other way, obviously you'd be scaling on the x. Switch into face mode, select that face, Shift G, choose area. That selects all faces with that sort of area. Just delete those faces. So that's that. And then we're going to go into edge mode, grab these two, which is the outer bits, and we're going to bevel them off. The amount of bevels really is not important. Let's just shade that smooth and do our auto smooth. 35 is my favorite for some reason. Go back into edit mode, right, and then you can select these and do Control G, give them a group. Select these three, Control G, give them a group. Then we can go in here and we can add a bevel. The limit method is vertex group, and we'll choose that first group. And what I'm going to do is, one of the favourite things I like to do with bevels is I turn on my wireframe, so I can see what I'm playing with. I also tend to take off clamp overlap, because sometimes that just blocks you in and you want to go further than that. Dial it right down, then just bring it up a little bit for this one. And again, we don't care about that, so even though it's such a small bevel, I'm going to give it 9. By the way, I'm using Blender 291, I think. Can't remember which version I've jumped up. Yep, up 290, sorry, not 291. 290.1. Okay, anyway, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to add another bevel modifier, and again vertex group, this time the second group, and once again take off clamp overlap, take it right down initially, and then I'd hold shift, dial it in, and again 12, because you know, we're not that bothered, because it's not like we're saving this really. I mean, you can save it, power save, handy little feature, you know, but it's a throwaway piece of geometry basically. And I mean, that's it, that's your work done. So the next thing to do is get your camera. Turn my light off, it's actually not needed. Select the camera, and I'm going to go Alt R and Alt G to put it back at the center, and then I'm going to GZ1 just to move it up there. And we're going to set it to orthographic. Now if we go into the camera at the moment, you can see it's not good. So first thing, obviously we want a square size, so I'm just going to go 1024. Now a trick with the camera, instead of adjusting this and sort of trying to eyeball it, we know this is 2 meters wide. So what we do is we go to the camera and we put 2 in, and it's as simple as that. If this was 3 meters wide, you'd make it 3. You only start to run into trouble if you've got non-square aspect ratio here, and then you've got to do a bit of eyeballing. I'm sure there's some math in terms of working out aspect ratios and what have you when you're dealing with repeating patterns, but that's something else. I just tend to make sure I stick within this ball game. And then all we want to do is go in here, make sure our display device is none, transform standard, look none, and sequencer is sRGB, and that's needed to get a nice normal map. Then you go over to your passes and you choose normal. Make sure that your depth is also Z is sorted, and that's your work done. So I'll just go to shading, change this to the compositor, and then I'm just going to hit F12, and I use 1024 because my machine isn't exactly blisteringly quick, and that was done. Takes a bit longer in cycles, but just use nodes now. And because I've got node wrangler or control shift click to see the viewer, and I'm just going to do this. And if I do that, there's your normal map. But as you can see, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look like a normal. And the reason for that is you need a couple of things going on. So you take this, change it to a multiply, and you make that 0.735. And this I've got this from Ryu's video. This is just what you do. It's 0.735, then Shift D, and turn the second one into an add. Bada bing, there's your normal map. So that's your normal map dealt with. Put that down here. Now the height map is just too much to see, so add vector normalize, drop that in. So that's that done, but it's inverted, so of course we do a colour and a colour invert, bump, and there's your height map. And so you can save them both now. If I do Alt save, we'll save that as untitled, we'll overwrite it. And then I'll dump that in there. Save, untitled one, overwrite that. And that's pretty much all you have to do. So now if we just, let's add in a cylinder, move it along the X, Y90, scale X. Let's give it a couple of materials. There's Tyre, rim. Right. So select that and that. We're just going to use inserts now. So insert, there we go. Insert, holding the control, pull it out, insert, insert, hold the control, pull it in, insert, insert, hold the control and push it out, and insert. Why not? Insert, hold the control and push it in. There you go. Then I'm going to go into edge mode, select that edge, and mark it as seam. Then just going to select these. I've got linked to delimit by seam because it's just a nice way of working. Select all that and assign that to Tyre texture. So let's give this a bit of a curve. There we go. Actually, let me come out of that. Let me check. Yeah, just making sure I got my scale right. There we go. And segments is a bit much. Let's make that 12, shall we? And then just mark that as a seam. There we go. And now that's the modelling done. Let's blog over to select that, and what we want to do is reset this initially. This is something I've found if you're going to use follow active quads, do reset it, otherwise it can come out at a strange angle. Now if we do unwrap, follow active quads, right, and I'm just going to Control P that just to put it in, and we will open the normal map. I'm just going to go R90. Doesn't really matter where you put this because it's very simple, there's no repeating pattern as such. You can just scale on the y-axis then. And to see how it's going, let's jump over to shader and we'll turn this into a shader editor. Got the Tyre active. Going to select that, Control T to give it a image texture and choose Untitled 1. Right. Switch that over to the UV editor, and it won't show up there because that's the render result. You need the actual image. So let's scale Y. Don't forget this bit, this middle bit is this bit, so base everything you want around that. So if I do that, you can see we're affecting that. So that's more or less what we want. Like that. That'll do. Now, because these have come over, you can just grab them, move them down. Otherwise there is a danger that you can end up repeating the tread pattern, which you don't want. And in this particular instance, it doesn't really matter about the amount of pixels this is using, but I'll scale it out by XB3. It doesn't really make any difference, but apart from the fact that you've got a few more pixels in each frame. And then I'll just do Control-2 on that to put a subdivision surface on it. And then all we're going to do then is basically cut that, add in a normal map, connect that up, change that to non-color, of course, because it's a normal map. There's your tyre. So let's make it look more like a tyre by dropping the colour down, shall we? And there it is. So that's your tyre. Easy peasy. And again, like I say, you can go into edit mode, and if you scale that on the Y, you can bring that in more. The easy way to see what you're doing is just turn off overlays in there. So scale Y, something like that, say GY. And one thing I would actually say, if you want to make sure this is fully centered, you can do scale, take it right in, go to your UVs, pressing down arrow there because it jumps to the top, choose constraint to bounds, then just G, move it to the, set your pivot to the 2D cursor, scale Y, scale X. There you are, you know it's exactly 1:1 now. Go back, turn that off, change your pivot point to medium point. Now if you scale on the Y, it's guaranteed to be centered. So if we do that, say, and we'll scale X2 for now, doesn't really make that much difference. Now, as I say, these here, if I take that edge and I move that up, naturally there you could see it's starting to come in. Now it's not too bad on this one in terms of there's enough either side of the image that you've got quite a bit of leeway before you hit the pattern again, so we can get away with it in this instance. And again, shade smooth. So there you are. I'm just going to actually sharpen that one with thingy. And in fact, what I'm going to do to make it look a bit prettier, I'm just going to select the rim, go to the outer, try the Tyre, so go 3. There we go. I'm just going to grab these two edges. You and you. I'm going to scale them on the X to pull them into each other. Wait. Individual origins, that won't work, will it? There we go. That's looks a bit nicer, doesn't it? Okie dokie. So anyway, that's that. That's how you do your normal map. So yeah, I'm not really showing off how to do a Tyre as such. It's the normal map that's the most important thing. So shunt that out of the way, and what I will do is I'll show you the one I actually created. So again, start with a plane, go into edit mode, single loop, bevel it, roll it off to one cut, That's my middle bit. So I'm going to have that. And then I'm going to do a Control R on both of these. And I think I'm going to scale those in on the Y a little. Yeah, we're going to go for that. And then we want 8 cuts. And we're basically going to select like that. Then going to select these middle bits because this all wants to come up. Extrude those up like so. Right. So that's them. Then we need to select these faces. Actually, an easier, well, no. I was going to say an easier way would be to use code planar, but then you'd end up with them as well, and you don't want them. So, depends how you want it. I mean, you could do that, actually. If I select that, I can select code planar, that'll select everything. Then I Control Shift click that. Shift click that one, Control Shift click that. Unfortunately, it doesn't do it. So, yeah, this is the quickest way after all. I wasn't sure if you could deselect with the shortest path, but Sunny selects with the shortest path, not deselects. So that's a bit of a pain. So individual origins, scale these on the X to give ourselves a nice thing there. Then select these edges here. In fact, instead of altering the top, I'll alter the bottom. You can do either, whichever you prefer. And I'll set that to a medium point and scale Y. There we go. Now we have to address these here, otherwise this is not going to tile nicely at all. So let's delete those faces. Let's hide the camera. That's making me think there's an edge there. It's not, it's the camera. So right, I want to get this point. I have my snapping set to vertex, so EY, and I'll just go to there. Do the same on the other side. EY, go to there. And just select those two, face. Those two, face. That and that. Face, that, and that, face. So that is now tileable, and you can prove that by giving it an array. Give it array, make it 3, and make sure the points are merged. So there's your modelling done. Then we can add in ourselves a bevel. Now, in situations like this, if you manually add in a bevel, I change the outer to arc because it just tends to look better. If I turn on wireframe again so you can see what's going on. It's not changing it. Interesting. Normally changes it. I wonder if it's a clamp. Clamp overlap. Hold on. 0.01. Let's change that value up to there. Let's give it 2 segments. Now let's change that to an arc. That is not doing what I expected it to. Oh, hang on, I know what the issue is. I've not thought. Not thinking on. I'm not changing what's going on here. I need to limit the method to angle. Here we go. That's better. Limiting the method to angle. Now, arc. There we go. Alright, and again as before, shed load of segments. Cause it'll look pretty. And that's that. If we put the camera back on and we look through it, well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move that GX-2. Now the reason I'm doing that is the end bit here, if you look, it might get a bit funky with the beveling if you're not careful. So by adding an array and then going into the middle of the array, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a clean shot of your software like that. And there's my normal map for that. And again, I can save that. Call it normal map 2. We'll go to shading, and we will show the cylinder. And let's put these back up so I can see what I'm doing. Turn the cylinder back on. And all we're going to do here is we're going to open Untitled 2. And as you can see, that's a bit of a mess. So let's switch to Untitled 2 there. Go into edit mode. I'm going to scale that on the Y. Like that. Again, I'm going to take off the overlays. As you can see, these are way too big, so I'm just going to scale X2. Scale X2. We're starting to get there. Scale X2 again. And there we are. There's our normal map for this tyre. And maybe drop that down to 0.7. Make it look a little less in your face. There we go. Job's a good one. So again, exactly the same thing. And if you were to look at the height map now, we go to the render result viewer node. We just click on that. There's your height map. So it's pretty cool. And so basically, obviously, that's going to work for any sort of tileable normal map, or even if you don't want it tileable, you just build the actual geometry elsewhere and create yourself a little PBR normal map. Hope you all found that useful.